I was raised in Kibera. It was my home for 16 years. And growing up in Kibera, life is harsh, it is sometimes unforgiving, and sometimes it's fatal. Carjackings, armed robberies, home invasions, street fights, and even the occasional assassination all happen with predictable frequency. Violence has very nearly ended my life. It has also, on several occasions, saved it. I have practiced and studied violence pretty much my whole life. First is as an amateur fighter, where I competed on a national and international stage. And second, which is now as a private security contractor, where I have the privilege of working with some of the world's leading instructors, combat effective special operation teams, and leading my own teams out on mission in the field. But tonight is not about me. Tonight is about you. Tonight is about mothers and daughters, sisters, aunties, and nieces, women. My name is Trevor Mimano, and I'm here tonight to teach you how not to die. I am indebted to the women in my life. First, to my mother, who raised me as a single parent and despite all the evidence to the contrary, never gave up faith or her sanity. Second, to my beautiful wife, who's somewhere in the crowd tonight, whose light continues to save me from darkness. And third, to my daughter, Leilani, who just turned 4 years old, and whose entry into my life, she changed everything. She changed it all. Being a father is terrifying. They didn't tell me this in the beginning. And it's been difficult for me personally to try and reconcile the joy I feel of watching her grow up versus my obligation to protect her and to prepare her for the world she's going to walk out into. And the reality is that for her, as a young woman in this region, there's a 1 in 3 chance that she will be the target of sexual or physical assault. That 45% of women aged between 15 and 49 in this region are targets and victims of sexual and physical violence. She's going to go out into a world where a husband can, in full view of his community and neighbors, beat his pregnant wife to the point of unconsciousness, putting her in the hospital and having, as a result of that beating, she miscarries her child. She's going to walk out into a world where, in this capital city, women have been stripped naked in broad daylight by gangs of immature hooligans under the guise of some sort of moral authority. She's going to walk out into a world where a husband can take a machete and cut off his wife's hands, mutilate her because she did not bear him children. Or where a 16-year-old young woman walking home from her grandmother's funeral can be set upon, gang raped, have her back broken, and thrown into a sewage pit to die. Tonight is about lessons, hard lessons, lessons that have been paid for in pain, in tears, and in blood. These are the lessons that I consider my obligation to teach Leilani. Lessons I hope she will never need, but lessons she can bet her life on. So the ABCs are the framework that I use to teach my 4-year-old little girl how to survive. And I'd like to share them with you tonight. The good news is, everyone in this room is already spectacularly equipped for survival. Allow me to demonstrate. I can't see your hands, but I'll ask anyway. By a show of hands, is there a woman in here who has had a distinct uneasy feeling about a situation or an individual? You couldn't put your finger on it, you couldn't articulate it, but you felt it in your bones, right? And you knew that if you ignored that feeling, you would regret that decision, right? Congratulations. I'd like to introduce you to your biggest survival ally, your instincts. Trust your instincts. You see, human beings are incredibly adept at survival. In fact, we're hardwired for it. Everyone in this room comes from thousands of generations of human animals that were strong enough, tough enough, smart enough to survive long enough to procreate. Violence is as deeply biologically rooted in our DNA as our need for sex and food. Your instincts are a gift. But for most of us, when our instincts try to warn us, when they try to tell us there's a threat present, danger is close, most of us disregard our instincts. We rationalize, we ignore them. Or to use a Kenyanism, we say things like, it's never that serious. Until it is that serious. The key to surviving and avoiding violence is A, awareness. And this can simply be defined as paying attention. Know what's going on around you. Now, this is a skill that can be developed. It can be taught. But the truth is, for most of us in this room, you just need to remember and make the choice to be present. To use your senses as you navigate through your environment. You need to remember to look, to listen, and to feel your way through life. Pay attention. So A, trust your instincts, pay attention. B is for boundaries. I have no intention of raising a polite, well-mannered, demure little girl. None. The default setting I want my daughter to have when she's challenged is to push back. I want her to be defiant. As such, I'm raising her how to hold her head up high, how to maintain eye contact. I'm teaching her how to move, and yes, I am teaching her how to fight. But beyond that, I'm also teaching her how to express herself, loudly if she needs to. Right? My daughter is clear that she alone is responsible for her physical well-being. She alone has sole agency. And therefore, I never ask my daughter to say hello to strangers or to hug relatives at family gatherings. Right? Not even me, as her father, will impose my physical will on her. So no forced hugs or forced kisses. I ask permission. I ask her, can I give you hugs? Can I give you kisses? And she's learned that if she says yes, she gets smothered in hugs and kisses. But if she says no, she knows that I will respect that choice. So I'm raising my daughter to be strong. I want her to be strong. I want her to be tough. I want her to be fierce. Because being strong is the only way I know to help her avoid the pitfalls of ignorance, to pretend to know things she doesn't know, or worse, to ignore her instincts when reality is upon her. So B is boundaries. Be confident, be strong, and own your space. So awareness and boundaries are really your predictive strategies. They're what keeps you out of trouble. But when they fail, we move to the next element of our framework, which is C, conflict. When presented with physical violence, there is no room for delusion. Fighting is an empirical skill set. It cannot be faked any more than I can fake playing the violin or performing neurosurgery. It can't. You either have it, you've learned it, or you haven't. When confronted with violence, I'd like you to remember three things, the 3 Ds as we call them. And the first of these Ds is deterrence. Weakness is provocative. Women who are aware of what's happening around them, who are strong, mentally and physically, who are assertive, have a very distinct carriage about them. It's unmistakable. These are the women predators leave alone. They search for easier prey. Deterrent. Don't look like a victim, and you won't be. Second D is distance. In close quarters, in a fight, in combat, managing distance is everything. And I've learned this the hard way. If you wait for your assailant to sit on top of you and punch you in the face, it's a little late in the game to try and protect yourself. Generally, by dictating distance and timing, you dominate the fight. It's a simple premise. It's harder in practice. And lastly, most importantly, is the final D, your determination. Should a predator choose you, It is your job to make him pay for it. It is your job to make him pay dearly for it. You are your own savior. No one else is coming. Fighting is stressful. Combat is stressful. Your training is the only thing that keeps you functional and that will get you home. Developing sound body mechanics and physical skill sets is only something that you can accomplish by repetition, through training in functional martial systems like boxing or wrestling or jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai. But beyond the physical conditioning, beyond your cardiovascular strength and endurance, beyond your stamina going up, the most important thing in a fight is your mental conditioning. Should a man lay hands on you without your consent, your overriding mindset should be to dominate. You will fight. You will win. You will triumph. You will get home, regardless of the cost, regardless of the consequences, no matter the odds. You will triumph. When faced with violence, remember the deterrence, distance, and your determination. I'd like to add one final component to this, a D, and that's doubt. Doubt is the one thing that might get in your way when you need to execute, when your life is on the line. And look, I empathize. Fighting is scary. And some of the information I might have told you already might be very different from what other people have told you your whole life. It is scary. But the reality is, for most women in this room, in life, the biggest threat for violence is not the criminal who'll stick a gun in your face. The biggest threat for violence exists far closer to home, behind closed doors, away from prying eyes, in private. 75% of women who are raped each year are raped by someone they know. Over 80% of women who are murdered each year die at the hands of their boyfriends, their husbands, and their lovers. To be clear, the first time a woman is subjected to domestic abuse, she's a victim. The second time, she's a volunteer. The data is clear. Women who stay or who return to physically abusive relationships end up in hospital or dead. So if I could leave you with one thing tonight, one final takeaway, it would be this. Forget submission. Fight. When you submit, you forfeit your right to life and wholeness. You give it all away. Fight. Fight for yourself. Fight for your life. Fight for the people you want to see again. Fight to get home or fight to get free. When your moment of truth comes, don't be a victim. Don't be a volunteer. Be ready. Thank you.